Hey friends, it's Lindsay Stitches. Welcome to my channel. If you are a regular here, you'll notice that I'm in a different part of my house today. That is because it's like 3:30 in the afternoon and the sun is going down over that way. The room I usually film in is over that way, so it's getting a little bit gloomy in there now, so the light is better in this part of the house. It's a large area and it's tiled, so I think it might be a little bit echoey, so I'm trying to like talk quietly and not yell like I usually do. And I wanted to film my video today because Josh comes home tonight, and I know that if I don't do it now, then I won't end up doing it for another week until he goes back to work. So here I am. I actually feel a little bit more like natural and normal sitting at my dining table here rather than sitting in my chair in the other room. So it might even work out for the best. Anyway, I am here to give you an update on my 2022 embroidery journal. I have finished August. I am super late to the party once again. It's like it's the 19th or the 20th or something today. But August is, I think, my favorite month that I've stitched on here so far. I think it's so colorful and fun. I've got a little list of dot points of all of the things that I want to tell you about so that I don't forget anything. So yeah, let's get into it and I'll tell you some of my favorite things. On the 3rd of August, I finished reading a book called Cloud Street. It's based in Western Australia, so it was really fun to read and like know some of the places that they were talking about. So for that, I stitched a little cloud there. On the 4th of August, Josh and I had sort of finalized the decision that we would be going to Tassie and picking up our other car and driving it across the country back to Western Australia. So on that day, I kind of started making a bit of a list of things that we needed to do. So for that, I just stitched like a little checklist with some ticks in it for things that I'd done. On the 5th, I had sort of been in a really chaotic group assignment for uni. I kind of ended up doing a lot of it. Somebody didn't like me for it. So for that, I stitched just like a little crazy, like a Sims fight sort of scene with question marks and a blah thingy. On the 6th, I dropped Mosby off at a property for a sleepover. So one of the things on my list of things that I needed to do before we went over to Tassie was find somewhere for Mosby to go and stay while we did the trip. So I booked him into a pet accommodation place. There's a lady who just looks after sausage dogs. I was a bit scared to leave him somewhere with people that I didn't know. So he went there for a trial sleepover. So they're called Dash and Paws. So I stitched their little logo there. Mosby had a really good time and he ended up going to stay there while we did our trip. So it was really fun and we got photos every day of him having fun with his little sausage dog friends. So it was super cute. On the 7th, I went and picked Mosby up from his little sleepover, and on the way home, I was driving along the highway and there was like a heap of strawberries all over the road that I guess had fallen off a truck or something. So for that, I stitched a little strawberry there. On the 9th, I got a print in the mail. It's from a Tasmanian artist who is called Pofo Illo on Instagram. It's called Drive Tasmania. It's like a map style and it features like a bunch of little towns that are in Tasmania as well as all of the highways that connect them all. If you can see like the lines around the edge there, it's basically in the shape of Tasmania and they're kind of like the 3 sort of main highways all around the state. So I stitched those there for that. And then on the 10th, Josh gave me a print. It is by an artist called Prints by Bow or Bow. It's actually sitting behind me here. It's off the Fremantle port. I really love going down and sitting and watching the big cranes picking up the shipping containers and putting them onto ships. So for that, I stitched one of the cranes there. On the 11th, I wore my pink and red color-coded jumpsuit for the first time in ages, so I stitched that there. On the 13th, we had Big Don's smoked meats for the first time, so for that I stitched our tray of food that we got. Big Don's is like a pop-up food truck sort of business. He does like American barbecue style stuff. It's not something that I am necessarily interested in, but I followed him for whatever reason before I even moved to Perth, and I am just obsessed with his business model and how he shares everything that he does on his Instagram, and I have just wanted to eat his food since I started following him like more than a year ago. So we finally got it and it was so good. I will definitely be eating there again. On the 15th, Josh built a garden bed in the backyard, so I stitched that there. I'll actually show you the garden bed here. It doesn't have any dirt in it, it's empty at this point, but I also need to show you our gigantic brick wall that we have in the backyard. I really want to paint a mural on it, so I need some backyard mural inspiration. On the 16th, I got my Chromatical marketing plan reprinted because I'm going to go through it again. I'm going to change up my business and kind of start everything all over again because I'm not really sure what I'm doing. So for that, I stitched like a little rainbowy sort of thing for the colors on the marketing plan. There's a couple of things that I stitched on my hoop that are to do with like the weather changing and it becoming sort of a little bit springtimey. On the 12th, I was leaving work and I walked across some freshly mowed grass and it made it smell like summer. So I just stitched a little bit of grass there. And then on the 18th, I took Mosby for a walk and it was super sunny after it had just been raining basically non-stop all winter. So it kind of felt like spring had finally sprung and I stitched some little flowers there. The 19th was my last day at my job. So for that, I stitched a little cookie because I made some cookies and took them to work. Also on my last day of work, on my lunch break, I went to the op shop. I bought two things, which are both really cool. I bought a jumpsuit, which is Lee denim. It's a little bit too big for me, but it's really cool, so I'm excited to maybe alter it a little bit and wear that out. And then I also bought a little skirt. I actually have the same skirt in a different color already that I'd bought from the op shop, and this one is an orange one. On the 20th, I tried those on, so I stitched the little orange skirt there. So the thing that I stitched for the 21st has a little bit of a story behind it. So nearby us, there is a suburb called Hamilton Hill. We drive through there when we go and get coffee down in Fremantle, and there is a house that we pass along the way that actually has, in their driveway, they have a giant KFC bucket, like the ones that are on the poles outside KFC shops. And it's been there since we moved here, basically like in October last year. Anyway, on the 21st, I drove past the house and it was gone. I was absolutely devastated. I can't believe that my favorite thing in Hamilton Hill is gone. So for that, I stitched the KFC bucket there. On the 22nd, I was making myself some dinner. I was chopping up some lettuce. I guess I was not really paying attention to what I was doing and I sliced my finger with one of our new knives. So I stitched a knife there. So on the 24th, this was the day before I went to Tasmania to pick up the car. I was going to go to the bookshop and buy myself a book to read while I was like on the plane and on the boat on the way back. I was like debating whether or not I should buy, you know, a brand new $30 book. Anyway, what I ended up doing was going to a couple of op shops and I ended up getting 4 books for only $12. So I just stitched my little stack of books there. On the 25th, this is the day that I was heading to Tasmania. My flight was at 6 o'clock in the morning. So I ended up waking up at 2:30 because I had to go and park the car in the long-term parking and then get myself to the terminal and do all of that sort of stuff. So I wanted to make sure I was nice and early. It takes me like half an hour to drive to the airport as well. So anyway, I woke up super early. I started heading to the airport. So the Perth airport, right, is set up like the terminals, like the Virgin terminal and the Qantas terminal are on opposite sides of the tarmac. And you've got to go like out on the freeway or the highway or whatever to actually get between the two of them. It takes like 15 minutes to drive between them. I went and parked my car in the long-term car park and there's shuttle buses that take you to the terminal. I got on the shuttle bus that turned up and then I got to the terminal and realized that I was at the wrong one. So I went to terminal 1 when I should have been going to terminal 4, I think. I stitched T1 there for that. So I got really stressed out. I knew that I was gonna mess something up. It's lucky that I got up super early and went there early because I kind of knew I was gonna get something wrong at some point. I had to get an Uber and go all the way around to the other terminal. All was well, I got there in time, everything was fine. Later on in the day, I ended up being late for my Melbourne to Launceston flight. I missed it. Everything went wrong, but it was fine. I got there. On the 26th, I was obviously in Tassie and I got my parents to take me down to Bicheno, which is where our car was parked. So we drove down there, picked the car up and then went to the Lobster Shack for lunch because it's my favorite place in Bicheno to eat. So for that, I stitched a crayfish there. Mosby's coming to sit with me. So it just so happened that when I was in Tassie, AgFest was on at the same time. For anyone that's not from Australia or Tasmania in particular, AgFest is a huge agricultural agricultural show. They like sell tractors and everything that you can imagine you might need at a farm. So I went to AgFest with Lizzie and Zach. It was super muddy, which it always is. And we actually got bogged in the car park because you park just in a paddock and it was super muddy. So everyone was getting bogged. So for that, I stitched a pair of pink gumboots with mud all over them. I didn't wear pink gumboots. I just thought that that was a cute representation of AgFest. On the 29th, I went on the Spirit of Tasmania for the first time. Again, if you're not from Tassie or Australia, Spirit of Tasmania is the ship that takes you between Tasmania and the mainland of Australia, because Tasmania is separate, in case you didn't know. It takes about 10 hours to get there. So it was my first time on the ship. I was by myself. Again, I was really nervous that I would get something wrong. Also that I would be sick on the boat. Everything was fine. I even made a friend on the ship, so it was all good. So for that, I stitched the ship there. It was an overnight sailing too. So the ship arrived on the 30th at like 6 o'clock in the morning. Josh was flying to Melbourne from Perth that morning at like 11 o'clock, and then we were starting our drive across the country. So Josh's brother actually lives in Melbourne, so he came and drove the car to his place and I just hung out there until Josh arrived. We sort of hung around for a little while and then Josh and I started driving. That night we ended up in Horsham, which is only about 2.5 hours maybe out of Melbourne. We went and stayed in a motel there, so I just stitched the motel sign there. And then on the 31st we kept driving and we crossed the border into South Australia. It was my first time in South Australia. I've never been there before, so it was super exciting. So for that, I stitched the SA road sign when you drive in. That is everything for my update for August. September gets a little bit more exciting because it's more of our drive. It actually ended up being a lot quicker than I thought it was going to be. So there's only like a few days worth of things on there really, and then it's just back to me doing normal things at home again. But yeah, August was one of my favorite months of things that I've stitched. I think it looks super cute. So yeah, I'll keep you updated on the next video.